Right, morning. Welcome everybody. Fantastic Tuesday morning. So the questions are you the influencer or the influenced? Is media social or antisocial? Are we getting increasingly connected or disconnected? And I see the Mad Hatter is missing. So Alice, do tell us, what are you serving for tea?
One of the best introductions I've ever heard. Oh dear. So taking the role of Alice. We're talking about the influence of social media. And as Ivan says, are we influenced or influencing? And there's just a couple of stories that stories that come to mind. In terms of, first of all, recognizing with Arab Spring that the social media platforms were highly instrumental in galvanizing groups of people to protest and led to the fall of these dictators in Northern Africa and extending. The same has happened in Hong Kong. And more recently, and whether it's true or not, I don't know, but the TikTok generation, which is sort of, I don't know, this is where we need Trevor, because he's got a grandchild who's a TikToker. And so they're the younger generation, sort of between 12 and 18, maybe slightly older. And they have connected with another trend called K-pop, Korean pop, who have millions and millions of followers. And they are claiming that they disrupted Trump's first rally in Oklahoma. They bought out the seats, which prevented the numbers that they were expecting at this first rally. And they are also a politically aware generation that are wanting to make an impact and are using social media and the bulk of their followers to influence social issues. So that was just by way of saying that social media is being used in society to address what the users are seeing as social issues. And then I also, on the opposite end of the scale, I wanted to mention a little cartoon that I saw of two little pigs sitting in a barn. And the one little pig says to the other pig, "Oh, it's so cozy in here. And, we get fed and, everything is provided for us. It's wonderful." And the other little pig said, "If you're not paying for it, you are not the consumer. If you're not the customer, you're the product." And underneath the cartoon, it said Facebook. So are we and I think it's this awareness of how much control do we have of a platform that we are not paying for, platforms, and on the other hand, how can we use the followers that we have for good or for evil? Who's being influenced and who's being influencing? So exactly as Ivan said. So I throw those things into the pot and let's hear what your thoughts are.
Great, thanks Lee. Yeah, and there's actually a movie on Netflix which addresses that. It's called Terms and Conditions May Apply. So if you're interested in what you're actually signing up for when you become the product, go and watch that movie. It's quite scary. So right, so who should we get across to first this morning? So Edward, I think let's start with you this morning.
Is that because I'm so young and I'm probably into TikTok? I think the sound might be a bit difficult this morning because my internet's playing up. I think it's really difficult to discuss this because we've all got different lenses we look at things through. You know, I don't use social media much except for sticking up pictures of me running, and I don't look at other people's stuff, so I don't look at, you know, massive influencers. So my view of what's going on is only what I hear from the press, and the press tend to get things wrong most of the time. But I don't think it's anything different from what's happened in the past. You know, if you think about maybe a club you belong to, if you get a really strong, dominant chairperson, he dictates what the club does. I think that's all that's happening on the internet. You get one or two people dictating what's going on and everyone else following in. So I really sort of don't know what to think about it because I don't really know enough about it. But I do know that TikTok is not something my daughter's got involved in because the youngest one's 23. But when I volunteer on these children's breaks, the children between about 11 and 13, they are absolutely mad about TikTok. They're on it all the time. So yeah, that's all I've got to say, because it's not something that I feel comfortable about knowing anything about.
Great, thanks, Ed. Yeah, I think many of us are still going to be amazed at what comes out of these social media wormholes. All right, so who should we pick on next? Herman, let's pick on another youngster who knows all about TikTok. So Herman, let's get across to you.
I know nothing about TikTok to start off with, but I think I have a fairly solid opinion with regards to social media. It's actually very much a two-pronged kind of thing. On the one hand, just to look at the kind of connection it allows us to create. So we're getting more and more connected digitally, but I believe we get less and less connected emotionally. So that's a contradiction I see in social media. And Lee mentioned the Arab Spring. Yes, it has triggered certain actions in certain areas, but I have the impression that in many instances, people see, for example, Facebook and similar platforms as a substitute for action rather than leading to action. But the most important thing, Lee's question was, how great is social media's influence? Now, if you haven't read anything about surveillance capitalism, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be arrogant, then you don't know how bad the influence of social media is. They collect data, and I can give you a couple of examples. They collect, what was it? They collect trillions of data points and produce more than 6 million predictions per second. That's Facebook alone. And what they do is they evaluate our behavior. And not only do they evaluate, they put it into profiles. And they sell those behavioral profiles to business in general. In other words, we believe that we have a conversation, let's say, for example, with an insurance company and believe we have an opinion, but they know so much about us in so many details and so well structured that they will be able to sell us what they want to sell us, not what we want. I think we need to really have, as critical consumers, we really need to look at social media with very, very, very critical eyes. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Herman. Yeah, it's a very deep wormhole, so we've got to be careful how far we go down it. But right, so let's go across to the TikTok experts in the group. Trevor.
Right. Am I on board? Okay. Yeah, so I just think social media is the greatest advance that society has ever had. And if you cannot control its influence and impact on you, it's your problem, not anyone else's. And I go back to the days of, I think it was the Gutenberg press, when those in power and control probably turned around and said, this blooming thing with all these alphabets and sharing stories. I think that was in about the 1600s. I don't know, someone more intelligent than I will get the idea that was going to be the downfall of society. Smart people survive on information. Powerful leaders want to remove all forms of information and information distribution away from people that they want to control. So how can it be that we should fear social media? We should fear the idiots that try and use it for control purposes, I think. And of course, Herman is 100% right. It is the most influential tool of our lifetimes. It has already, I think we've already seen since 1994 when the internet came on board, and then email probably 1995, probably became the first social media tool to impact people. Then I think Obama was really the first individual to use it to actually gain presidency in the United States, and then Trump obviously took it to another level as well. But I think Obama was really the first smart user of this. And now I think the Asian communities have got to understand just how powerful this is, as has Russia, and anyone who perhaps has negative intent is going to actually use this more and more. So if you're super smart, you're going to work out how to actually take control over this warfare over control of your mind. I love it. Social media, all power to it.
Okay. So the Mad Hatter is definitely on board this morning. Right. So let's get across to Steve next.
Morning all. Yeah, I think social media is, I agree with some of Herman's thoughts in terms of it's a bit dual pronged. I think if you've investigated anything in terms of the marketing aspects of social media, specifically Facebook, you'll see just how skewed the algorithms are if you're not paying for anything. And so you are provided with, as a non-paying user, with a very skewed perspective of what's going on out there. And so I would also agree with Trevor. I think you have to try and remain in control of your own brain and filtering out what you're influenced by. But it is a powerful influencing tool. We use it mainly as a family, as a communication device. But even there, we're aware that it's not as powerful as we would want it to be without us having to actually put money into the funnel at some point. Yeah, I think people that are unwilling to look behind kind of the illusion of social media will be drawn into some of the dream world that is there. I think of Herman's comments on social activism on social media, which I think is mostly a false reality, because it's quite easy to type things on a keyboard and believe that you're changing the world, and you're not actually. You actually have to be out there living differently and making different choices rather than just putting your name and profile picture behind some hashtag of the moment. And so I think that's a little bit of a dream world that specifically the younger generation need to break through from. But it is also, on the other hand, very powerful. And we have seen movements come together and share experience and connect over them. But I also see a lot of stupid behavior and great polarities of people just going on to vent their spleen and other people for no good reason, etc., etc. So I'm a little I wouldn't say ambivalent. I've got strong feelings either side in terms of social media and what its worth is. I do think we could do without much of it, probably, and we would actually be a little bit healthier. But I'm not scared of it.
Right, thanks, Steve. Right, Kevin, let's get across to you.
Okay. Morning, everyone. I don't know about this TikTok. I always thought TikTok was the thing on the wall you told the time by, but that's showing my age a bit probably. But yeah, I mean, social media, it's got its good and its bad. Obviously, the good side, it's good for keeping in touch with friends and family, making new friends, and as you go as well. That's the very positive side of it. On the negative, we recently had over a mini series about the Murdoch Empire, and that emphasized the power that he had within that empire and its subsequent downfall as well, to a degree. And that's mirrored a bit on the social media. The power is, as some of you already said, is the very powerful animal. It gets the message across that it wants everybody to hear, basically. It's very difficult to find the positive news stories on the social media. It's all the negative everywhere, which is a common theme with the tabloid press, I suppose. It is all about the bad news. To me, the worst aspect in my mind of social media is not the. It's fine having these people generating the protests, getting their opinions out there, which generates these protests. I think the worst outcome from social media is the follow-on from that. Is to develop this breed of people that then are very vociferous against the people that don't agree with their opinion. It's giving people that platform that, if you don't agree with my opinion, you must be ignorant or stupid. And there's far too much of that on social media, I feel. But yeah, that's my little few words for this morning.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I think the perceived anonymity behind social media gives some people license, they think, to do whatever they want, which is an interesting direction. So, Mpolelo, let's come across to you next.
Yeah, sure. Social media, right? I probably, out of this group of people, being the youngest, one of the youngest, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. It probably took me the longest to be on any social page. I mean, I'm hardly on Facebook, hardly do Facebook. I only use it to find out about what my friends are up to, because sometimes they don't tell me. So I find out only from Facebook. And probably the only social media that I use is LinkedIn. Okay, it says your internet connection is unstable. Am I clear on your side? Okay. And for me, it's not so much the fear of social media itself, the tool. It's the fear of human nature. I'm not sure about giving so much power to an individual or to a corporate. History seems to suggest that human beings and power have a very strange relationship. I cannot imagine Google sitting with all the data, just how much power it gives them, and how much they can change and manipulate to their own ends. That's the first thing for me. The second one is, if you look at how algorithms are done, they are usually done with how whoever is doing them imagines the world to function. And if that world is outside other people's world, you'll find that it then doesn't represent those people. I'm trying to think of an example that I can make, and I think I've made this example before. With the surveillance that's done now, the algorithm is used in such a way that it picks up certain things. I did say this before. There's a particular way in which boys in the township walk, because for them it's cool to walk like that. But this algorithm is made in such a way that it picks that up as a thug behavior, because the person who put the algorithm imagines thug behavior, or a person who's a thug to behave like that. And then that algorithm starts picking up those people. That's why you find that there's a total bias to a certain direction. In actual fact, with one of the algorithms of Google, it was picked up that it always qualifies white men for a particular job, because whoever imagined what a person who fits that job is like made the algorithm in that way. And so that's where for me it becomes a difficulty. I mean, I hate the fact that on YouTube, I watch one video and all of a sudden I'm profiled like that and that's all I am getting. And I'm like, am I one dimensional? There's 20 more different things that I would do that go different directions. But social media is feeding me one directional information because that's what I Googled. That's one thing I really, really don't like. So from that perspective, that's where I have a difficulty. One, how much power are we giving to a corporate or to an individual? But also secondly, how algorithm is usually written. Those for me are the bigger challenges. But as far as enabling business and enabling us to connect with each other, that part is great. My fear for me has always been the human nature, human beings behind this great and powerful tool.
Yeah, let's take human beings out of the context and we won't have any problems left, will we? Right, who should we come to next? Jasper, let's get across to you.
Morning. I think my contribution is not in terms of the social media itself, but I think a point that Trevor touched on, and that is that people with evil intentions are always looking for the next best thing that can accelerate what they want to do. And I was reminded, and also how people then use it. I mean, one of our Red Beret political parties have a whole team of youngsters manufacturing so-called news and try to influence people. But I mean, it goes back to Goebbels and Hitler, who would influence people and build a whole strong anti-Semitism. And he was famous for saying, you know, it doesn't matter what you say. If you tell a lie long and hard enough, everyone will believe it. And then I was thinking about, back to Trevor's comment of the technology is neutral. It's how it is used. And I think then the people with evil intent warms to the new technology much faster than, let's say, the good people who use it for other purposes. And it brings me to another phenomena in our world, and that's fake is first and then the real thing. And where I picked this up in my travels to Asia is that you can get the latest fake watch or the latest fake bag or the latest fake thing that is not yet released. It's 6 months away from being released in its factory of origin, but it's already being released on the streets of Hong Kong or places like that. So I think it comes back to Pumelelu's comment, and that is, it's the nature of man. And the sad thing is just that we wake up to the power of technology. The good people wake up to the power of technology too late, and then they use it ineffectively because they don't have hidden agendas. They just use it to social network with the family and stuff like that. So maybe it is coming back to the thing is, you know, people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. We need to educate people about the power of the tools that we have in our hands and start doing it correctly. And maybe a future discussion can be, how do we timeously screen out fake so we can get to the real? So that's my contribution.
Thanks, Jasper. And something you need to perhaps do a little bit of research into is deepfake. I just put the Wikipedia link on the chat box. So what you might think is real is not necessarily real any longer because of the deepfake technology. It's quite scary stuff. Right, Cecile, let's come across to you next.
Sorry, my phone rang twice already. And then I get cut off from this whole group. I must confess, I haven't got time to do any of these social media things. So for me, it is actually reverted back to virtually social media. To just check when I have maybe an hour a week to check on what my family and friends are doing. I so intended to do LinkedIn for business, and I haven't. I've actually enrolled for Scotty and Leon's course, but I haven't even had time to do that. So my day is over long before I even get a chance to do business on social media. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on TikTok. I'm a little bit on Facebook, a little bit on LinkedIn. And I think it's fascinating, but I don't have time to actually go into it a bit more than what I should. I guess I should. Just like what Jasper said, people are going to wake up too late, and I may be one of those people that wake up too late to find, oh, there's a lot of business that you can do. Because I've actually even enrolled for a LinkedIn Premium, and then I just get a little notification, oh, you've got 100 people that viewed your profile, but I haven't got time to go and sit and look at all these 100 people. So I know it takes time to do this, and it's my fault. I know I'm going to wake up too late to it, but then I'm going to be retired in Jeffreys Bay.
Hopefully with a surfboard and no internet. Right, Stella, let's see if your internet is standing up to your input this morning. Stella, are you with us?
Sorry, my internet is, I don't know what's happening. Morning, everyone. Yeah, so social media, I've never been a fan of social media. I remember my mom, the last couple of years before she died, she was very active on Facebook. She loved it. And then she would every time say, Stella, did you see this or that? And then I said, no, Mom, I haven't got time for Facebook. And then I actually, after she died in about 2016, 2017, I've only started getting more engaged, but like the way that people expose their whole personal, all their personal laundry on Facebook and that type. So it's not really for me. I'm forced now for my business to be more on social media. So I'm getting into it, but yeah, I don't like it. So funny enough, just before we came on and you guys were talking about TikTok, they said on the radio that Trump is now suing Microsoft for TikTok. He wants a commission or something for everything that's being used in America. So yeah, but I don't know TikTok. And it seems like the younger generation, yesterday, something that is very nice to use is House Party. I don't know if you guys know House Party. So we've been using that to communicate with the grannies and the kids overseas, etc. So that's very nice. And then yesterday we had a house party on Monday. Is that yesterday? What's today? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday. Sorry. And my mother-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law, she's also very active on Facebook, and she asked my daughter about, did you see this on Facebook? And she says, no, Mom, I don't do Facebook anymore. They hardly ever go on Facebook. They more do Instagram and the other stuff. So yeah, and I don't know if you guys, what concerns me about social media is last week there was a video going around of a couple that said the youngster were playing on the iPad a game, and then these, you know, when the ads pops up, there was some pornography ads and stuff that popped up, and when they were very disturbed, and when they try to play the game, it doesn't come up, but when the child does. So yeah, I think that's my biggest concern with the exposure that the children are at, and parents don't realize it. And it's so easy just to stick an iPad in a child's hands and go off and do what you do, and you don't know what you expose your children to. Yeah, so okay, thanks guys.
Thanks, Stella. Yeah, there's risks and everything, aren't they, in life? So yeah, one has to work out how to manage them best that suits your requirements. Nazipa, let's get across to you next.
Hi, thanks, Ivan. I think You know, after the 2016 elections, the US elections, I think it became quite clear to everybody, or rather to a lot of people, how powerful Facebook had become and how it can also be used as a censoring tool. You know, in a lot of ways. I think even those that had put their weight and investments behind Facebook in particular also realized that they are no longer able to control this monster they've been feeding, because you know it's big. I don't think anyone can control it now, because you know you just have to see what happens when you put an ad on Facebook, for example. You know, it will, you know, it targets for you. You know, it asks you to say who is it that you want to speak to. And, you know, like somebody said earlier, if you find yourself searching for something, even on Google, by the time you get back onto Facebook, you've got a feed of those that have come through onto your platform. And, you know, you realize then that there's a whole lot more that's going on. I also notice when I place paid ads on Facebook, I target who I want to see the ads and you pay them and it goes to where you want it to go. But if I place an ad and I don't pay for it and I just place it on the company page, for example, they will censor it because, you know, they expect me to pay for it so that it can be viewed by more people. And, you know, you start realizing that, you know, there's a lot that they do around Facebook, which is not, I don't know, it works for their favor, I'd rather say. My brother is in drop shipping. He does drop shipping. And so his clients are all over the world that they do this thing with. One of the things that he does, he's a marketer. One of the things that he does is he'll sit with a group of youngsters, and my son's one of them. And you know, they will sit and look at the profile of everybody that has bought from him. And these are people from any country in the world. And they'll go into Facebook and get the data on those people, because he literally wants to know who are these people, who do they hang out with, what do they do for fun, why are they buying? Like, you know, they literally go in and invade. They will rip apart the profile of a person, and by the time they're done, they've given you an entire profile of that person. And when I saw them do that, I realized that this means this is being done to me as well, because I'm also on Facebook and I also buy things online. So there's probably other marketers that sit online and want to profile to find out who I am. But I also realized, I think one of the books I was reading recently, which was talking about how that profiling becomes an important feeder for your marketing profile. When you want to do marketing, you've got to go through that type of profiling. So on a corporate part, it's how you really use it. But I've seen marketers that do amazing things through Facebook. I think I'm both a product and, you know, I find that I'm a product, but I also pay. So I sit on both ends. I think the influence of Facebook can never be understated, and not just Facebook, other social platforms. I mentioned Facebook because I'm on Facebook a lot. A lot of my clients are on Facebook, and that's why I'm also on Facebook. But where business is concerned, I mean, when we sit and do our business model, for example, we factor in now social media. Like, you know, a big part of our marketing strategy moving forward is to throw it on social media because it's cheaper to advertise there and. So yeah, I think there's a huge influence, Facebook, and I think at this stage, it's probably difficult for anybody to control the influence of Facebook out there. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Nazipo. I'm wondering whether I should ask Trevor and Steve if, you know, who wants the red pill and who wants the blue pill. So, so if you know where that reference comes from, you've been watching the wrong movies as well. So Donovan, let's see, your internet's been a bit up and down, but if you'd like to unmute and add your thoughts in, please do.
Yes, thanks, Alan. Thank everyone. Yeah, I've been trying my best to listen and follow the conversation, but it was a bit difficult.
You're very faint, Donovan. Perhaps if you can just speak a bit louder.
Yes, sorry about that. Yeah, I was just thinking about you basically, when you're on social media, you're basically interacting with a machine, you know, well-pilot machine, a well-programmed machine. So you're basically at the mercy, you know, of whoever designed it lead you in certain directions. It's like when you climb a mountain, when you start on a certain route, you are stuck on that route, you know, and you'll basically experience whatever you need to based on whoever designed that route. So it's all about control. Thank you.
Thanks, Donovan. Yeah, we're definitely all part of the machine. So on that note, I think, Lee, I'll hand back to you to wrap up for the morning.
Well, thanks. Fascinating discussion. So yeah, appreciate everybody's thoughts and ideas. I'd like to maybe come back to this idea. I don't know if it's come back to it, but the word that is in my mind is this word perception. Is what is perception? What is reality? Everybody says perception is reality. But you know, and Edward says, you know, a lot of what he gets is from the news. And I realize that I am priming myself by the news channels that I choose to listen to. And I went to university, I went to Rhodes University because I wanted to save the world. So, and the way I was going to save the world is I was going to reveal all truth. And that was going to, when people knew the truth, their minds would be changed and the world would be a better place. So I studied journalism at Rhodes in the 80s. And my very first lecture was, there is no such thing as truth. So my poor little ideals came tumbling down around my shoulders. And I sobbed to my mother, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life because I can't be a journalist anymore. It was a life crisis. And so that's really what I'd like us to talk about. What is truth? What is perception? What is reality? And yes, we can talk about it philosophically, but this is in actual fact very real because it is about what we are allowing to influence us. What are we allowing, and what information are we taking in, and how are we checking back how real, how not real that information is? Or are we all just living in the matrix and, you know, it is what we just have to go with the flow, you know. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about perception, reality, truth, and what we're taking in. So let's share around that tomorrow.
Thanks, Neo. And you do realize Mr. Anderson is on this call. So anyway, on that note, folks, have a fantastic day further and we'll see you in the morning. Go well.